Clix has been one of the best players in Fortnite for years now, but despite that has never been able to win in FNCS. However, this chapter he's been looking better than ever, and many think this season could finally be where he takes home the crown. In previous chapters, Clix has always been one of the best fighters out there, starting in the World Cup days and really evolving in Chapter 2 back when he was running box fights. But even though he's qualified for almost every single FNCS Grand Finals, he's only ever been able to get 2 top 5s, never really being close to winning. However, now everything seems to be finally falling in place. In Chapter 4 Season 3, after not being able to find a stable duo, he would end up playing with the 6x FNCS champion Epic Whale. Now on paper, this duo looked insane, but in reality they didn't do well, placing 23rd in that season's FNCS, then at the Global Champs, just barely missing out on making the finals. For a team of this caliber, these placements were awful, so heading into Chapter 5, everyone expected them to split, but to shock of many, they decided to stick it out. To most, this was an interesting decision. However, they had been working so much with their coach BloodX to the point where splitting would not work out for them in the long run. But little did they know, this decision would pay off massively. In the beginning of Chapter 5, they were looking pretty good in the Cash Cups, coming through with a 6th and 3rd right before the start of FNCS. Throughout the qualifiers, they played very consistent and eventually made it all the way to Grands after placing 3rd in the semifinals. But so far, I haven't mentioned the most important part. This season, they decided to land at easily one of, if not the most broken POI in the game, Lavish Lair. This drop had tons of loot. Most importantly though, it was the home of Oscar, who had one of the 5 medallions on the map which granted you shield. On top of this, it had one of the most broken weapons we've ever seen, the mythic Frenzy Auto Shotgun, which in those laggy stacked lobbies is definitely the most ideal gun to use. That wasn't it though. After getting the medallion, they were able to go to the vault, where there's a bunch of weapon cases, which have an extremely high likelihood of dropping you a sniper. And if you guys are familiar with Clix, you know he's a god with it. Now like I said, this POI was extremely broken, and somehow they were able to get the entire thing uncontested. Everyone knew if Clix ever had a chance to win, it was now. So with that being said, it was finally time to see if he could pull through.
Go, bro! Come on, you. Inbox! Go, team like inbox, box! Get up! One right! Nice, good. Epic. Go that game!
Clix played the best he's ever played, but unfortunately in the end they were only able to get a 4th. Now obviously this was still insanely impressive, however they had arguably the best drop on the map uncontested, so fans were very sad to see them not win. And Epic Whale himself would later on admit he wasn't playing very well, so if he did, they could have finally done it. But that now brings us to Season 2, where they're still a contender to win FNCS. However, this time, it's going to be harder than ever. Epic Whale and Clix's drop is still at Lavish Lair, but this time there's no medallion, which definitely makes the POI a lot worse, but still not bad. Most importantly though, is that they rarely get snipers. This season, the spawn rate was nerfed, and without the vault, it makes it almost impossible to find one. And last season, it was a sniper that really helped them out with Surge and getting kills. So with that being said, they needed to figure out something else. By the way, if you're enjoying the video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe because only around 7% of you watching actually are. And well, that's by abusing the DMR like many other pro players have been doing. Finally heading into FNCS, it was time to see if they were still primed up. And well, it was looking like it. Clix and Epic got 4th in opens, 61st in round 2, then 65th in round 3. That brings us to the final round, which is the most important one that will determine the rest of their FNCS. So it was now where we would really see if they still had it.
I'm going down. Epic. Box.
Nice. Play for body.
Epic Whale and Clix went on to dominate the finals, getting 1st place. This almost certainly qualified them for the upper bracket semifinals, which just means they have more chances to make the Grands later on. But just to guarantee it, we needed to see how week 2 would go. In the first 3 rounds, they would continue performing extremely well, as many of us expected. It also seemed like they had been able to fix some of their mistakes in those previous tournaments. And some of the tricks they used later on will really surprise you. After having such a dominant week 1, week 2 was looking the same, but it was finally time to see if they could go back to back. Clix and Epic Will would play out of their minds again. This time though, they weren't able to win and instead placed 11th, meaning overall they finished second on the series point leaderboard, right behind another one of the favorites to win, Peterbot and Poyo. This now brings us to the bye week where everyone is waiting for the semifinals to start and see who will officially qualify. It's pretty much 100% guaranteed this duo will make finals, but what actually is it that makes them one of the best duos in the region? Over the last 2 seasons, they have perfected their all-spawn strategies at Lavish Lair. This time around, Lavish is much more uncontested than before since there is no more medallion. Once landed, each of them has their own unique loot route they take. Clix starts at the top of the main building, then goes down from there and out the back, looting this entire area. Epic Will, on the other hand, loots everything out in the front of the main building, then goes to the south side and left side of the main building, looting this entire area. Looking at these from side to side, you see Clix definitely has more area to cover. This is because of one main flaw of Lavish, and that's that they don't have much metal. Because of this, Epic Will spends time farming instead of looting. Since this tends to take longer, during this time, Clix gathers any extra heals for Epic and throws them at the main door for later on, which ends up saving them a ton of time. And all this happens before the second zone even closes, typically around 1 minute beforehand. From here, they tend to go one of 2 ways, no matter where the next zone pulls. To the east, there's a bunker spawn, and to the west, there's another one. Because of this almost 100% chance of it spawning, they go there and get better loot. Now, all the games we're looking at here are the FNCS finals, where the games are very stacked with good players, so obviously they're not the only ones going for it. This doesn't affect them though. Even if there's already another duo there hitting the Jivin strat with a bunch of boxes, they still go for it. Clix, being one of the best box fighters for years now, mixed with both of them being on 0 ping, means they have an extremely good chance of winning these fights. Typically, when they engage in a box fight like this, instead of pinching the team from each side, they opt to fight side by side, but not actually in the same box together. This is because they can both take their ones, then easily help the other if needed. But if they went for a pinch instead, they'd be much further away from each other, creating a higher risk of one of them dying since the opposing team can do more of a sneak play. It's also worth noting that they still do this even if they're deep in zone as well. Now that they have much better loot and the best attachments on their guns, it makes doing well just that little bit easier. Throughout the rest of the mid game, they don't do anything too notable, just using their fizz in order to make rotations easier during those later zones like every other duo does. Heading into the end game now, it's time to see what really makes them so good. Clix and Epic Will always follow one of 2 strategies to stay so consistent. The first one is obviously by taking height, but this season they do it in a way no other team is doing. Now, taking height to this duo is nothing new, and last season we saw it a lot. However, it was also the reason for them not doing so well. In the past, when on height, they would either die really early on by not playing it properly or would win the game. But this season, things are different. Most duos tend to wait to go high ground in the last 2 moving zones, yet they do the complete opposite. Almost every game during the first moving zone, they fizz then try to sneak up on height from behind. And most of the time it doesn't actually work, but they know this. Doing it mainly just tests to see if the height team is good, so if the sneak play doesn't work, they instantly give it up instead of fighting for it, which results in them saving up on materials to take it later. If the initial height take doesn't work, they end up taking it in that next zone. Before then, they always mirror height, which is just by rotating underneath height's builds so they don't have vision on them. During this time, they are carefully looking to see what height is doing, and then around the switch and moving zones, they make their decision to go for it. When they do, once again, they fizz then ramp up underneath height, once again mirroring them. From here, with the help of the fizz effect, they just do a simple side jump in order to try and get some initial damage on the opponent while also catching them off guard. After this, they prioritize cranking up on height just so they can't take it, and then the other one looks for more damage or also starts cranking up. And as you can see, this works against some of the best players in the game. Like I said earlier, this is the complete opposite to what most pros do. Peterbot and Poyo, for example, even having the dash medallion, wait until around the second to last moving zone to actually take height. But with the help of their coach BloodX this season, they've really mastered how to maintain it. This is mainly done through constant pressure and always being aware of what other teams below are doing. I also mentioned earlier how they do one of 2 strategies, so what is the other one? Well, it seems very obvious, but it's by taking low ground. Now you may be thinking these 2 choices are very apparent, and well, they are. However, once again, they do it in an interesting way. Most of their best games are from height, but when they aren't able to take it, they still play extremely well. Just like everyone else, most of the time they rotate using fizz, but the main thing to note is that whenever possible, they instantly claim same low ground, even if it's the first moving zone. Clix and Epic always make sure to stay right next to each other during the entirety of each moving zone, only being one box away at max, since in endgame duos tend to jump in for refreshes. From here, they stay front the entire time, continuing to stay in each other's boxes. Now these low ground games tend to not turn into wins, since most teams in the final moving zone have to drop down instead of going up. But overall, looking at their games, they don't really do anything super crazy, and mainly just follow the core strategies that they've learned to master over the years. Which makes sense considering they've been some of the best players throughout the entirety of Fortnite competitive. So that's how they're so good, but what actually are their chances of winning? And well, to be honest, I think it really depends on how the other top teams do. I think they will still easily get a top 5 minimum. However, if Cold and Acorn pop off again, or if Peter and Pollo lock down Grim Gates, it sadly doesn't look good for them winning. With that being said though, there's definitely still a chance. If not this season, it will for sure be soon, as long as he continues the grind. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. I hope you guys all have an amazing rest of your days. Peace out.